mandatory coffee sip before we start. Okay. Hi everyone, welcome back to Death Before Decaf. My name is Emily. I am a second year history master's student at McGill University. I also manage a small business and I work full-time in marketing. And last week I posted a video with some sort of out-of-the-box advice for freshmen that were coming into college for the first time. But I am not a freshman. I have not been a freshman for a very long time. And I know that a lot of you are also non-traditional students, and so I wanted to talk to a very specific group of people, which is the people who don't fit this fresh out of high school, living in a dorm, 18-year-old mold of a college student. Maybe you're a mature student, maybe you're also juggling a full-time job, maybe you are a parent who is going back to school. Regardless, I want to say first of all, respect. None of this is easy, and it is very, very, very commendable that you are seeking out education on top of the challenges that you might already have in your life. You are doing something that is both hard but very valuable. And second, I am here to give you some unconventional college advice. As a bit of background, I work a full-time job on top of being a graduate student full-time. I also did my bachelor's of history as someone who was working full-time, and I did a bachelor's of music education as an actual freshman, but that was eras ago. So this is not my first new school year as a freshman, and it's not my first new school year as an unconventional mature student either. So that being said, we're going to talk about some unconventional college advice that fit more the unconventional student mold. So let's go. So the most important thing is we're gonna have to redefine what success looks like. So the truth is that your success is not gonna look the same as a kid who the only thing they have to do is spend time in the library, studying and cramming for exams. That's not our reality, and that's totally fine. If you're also working, if you're also raising a family, sometimes success means just getting the assignment in on time and nothing more. It is not useful at this point to compare ourselves to 19-year-olds with different circumstances. The only thing that matters is comparing ourselves to yesterday us, And this is really, really tough, and I've had to condition myself to stop comparing myself to people who are in college at the same level as me without a job, without a second job, even without, being married. And they, have sort of completely different lifestyle that might be more conventional when it comes to academia, but that doesn't change that I wouldn't change my life for anything. It just means that comparing ourselves is not useful, and that we need to redefine what success looks like from the get-go so that we don't disappoint ourselves from the get-go. I'm giving this advice to myself too, because I need to hear it, but you also need to hear it, so let's do it together. Time management is not about packing more stuff into your schedule. Every guide is going to tell you to manage your time better, but for non-traditional students, it's about not trying to fit more in. It's about trying to cut out more. You ask yourself, what can go, what can wait? But if you try to do everything at once, work, family, school, a social life, volunteering, school clubs, and being part of a student council, you will burn out. What's important to do is to build your schedule around your actual non-negotiables, whatever those might be: work shifts, childcare, your commute. For me, that means my days that I have to be in the office at work, and it also means social time and exercising. Those are my non-negotiables, and then I slot everything that comes with school around that time. And that time then becomes even more sacred, and I focus better because I know that, that 2 hours on the Thursday morning is my go-go time, and it's gotta happen. And it's much more motivating than just procrastinating because you can afford to do it. So, not about packing more time management, about prioritizing and knowing what your non-negotiables are. Number 3 is also advice I need to give to myself because I also struggle with that. But your professors are your allies, And one thing that people don't tell you, and one thing that you might not know unless you're faced with it, is that professors can actually be quite flexible, but only if you communicate. If you're upfront about being a working student or a parent student, many professors will be willing to meet you halfway. That doesn't mean asking for like special treatment or anything, but it does mean explaining your reality. Do the things, send the emails, spend the 5 minutes talking to them after class, and you're going to be surprised how many doors that actually opens. Especially if you're like me and you're in the humanities, the number of times that I've explained to, a professor that I might have to miss some class here and there because I have a full-time job that sometimes sends me on side projects. They tend to not be angry. They tend to realize that a job in history is a difficult path to take on, and that it just makes sense for someone in this day and age not to want to get themselves in trouble financially by having stable income in university. And and because of that, I found that teachers were very understanding, and that they actually were much more willing to help than I thought in the beginning. For my fourth piece of advice, it's going to be important that you build a different kind of support system. Traditional students are often going to rely on clubs and sports teams and their dorms and their roommates for a community, but that's not always realistic for unconventional students, because we are not students who spend their whole life at the university, and our whole life are not, let me say that again, our whole lives are not based on the university that you are at. So you need to find something more realistic. You need to build your support in unconventional spaces. Maybe that's a group chat with classmates who also work. Maybe it's networking with other mature students. Maybe it's an online community. Maybe it's your friends from work. No matter what, you need peers who actually get it. Because let's be real, your 18, 19, 20-year-old classmates might not. So we want to have a different kind of support system that actually works for our reality. Now, this next one is really tough, because if you're like me, you really like romanticizing your life, and you really like the study academia aesthetic, and what you really want to do with your life is spend all day in an old library. However, when you have a different reality, you need to give yourself permission to study differently, because you might not have 7 uninterrupted hours to read. That's totally fine. You can study in fragments. You can use voice notes on your commute. You can listen to lecture recordings while you're cooking. You can highlight some key points in 15 minutes before bed. Consistency is going to beat aesthetics, unfortunately. It doesn't need to look like the movies, even though we want it to so bad. What it needs to do is work for you, and we want to have the best of both worlds, and often romanticizing studying or the aesthetic of school is even more motivating, and I'm right there with that, but it's about being flexible and realizing that consistency, I'm repeating myself, but consistency does ultimately beat aesthetics. So, to all of my fellow unconventional students out there, you are not behind, you are on a different path. That path is just as valid, maybe even harder and more impressive. Regardless, I wish you the absolute best of luck in all of your projects and endeavors. If you found this helpful, please drop me a comment and tell me about your experience as a non-traditional student. Let me know what's on your mind, what are you most looking forward to, what might be stressing you out more. I would love to hear your story, and don't forget to like and subscribe for some more content like this. It really helps out my channel, and good luck out there. You've got this. I believe in you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.